Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Andre The Beast Show. You know, this show is going to be funny, and it's going to be a different side of Beast frame of mind. But however, don't get it twisted. The guests that are on the show have their Beast state of minds in and out. But today, I am so privileged to have co-hosting with me Paul Jefferson, who's going to introduce our guest in 1 second, but let me explain to you why this guest is here. I reached out to this guest and asked him to be on the podcast, and more importantly, I've always followed his career from high school, which we'll talk about, college, which we'll talk about, to the NFL, and to where he's at today. He's truly has been an inspiration to the people of the city, and I'm proud to have him on the show. Maybe Paul might want to introduce him too as well. Paul, take it over.
Sure. We're here today with former NFL player, current radio personality, and mortgage broker Ken Dilger today.
Ken, welcome to the show, big guy.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Great. You probably haven't had an introduction like that from two individuals.
Heavy lifting, right?
Oh, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
So, Ken, tell us a little bit about your journey from high school to the NFL.
Yeah, I grew up in southern Indiana, a little town called Mariah Hill, and went to Heritage Hills High School, which had some other NFL guys. Jay Cutler is one of them that you may or may not remember or may not like.
I like Jay Cutler.
He was a Bears fan and Bears quarterback and Broncos quarterback. But then I got lucky. I played quarterback in high school and just kind of grew up to be 6'5" and 210 in high school and played 3 sports and fell in love with football and just kind of worked my way to the University of Illinois on a football scholarship.
You played quarterback. When did the transition go into tight end?
My first year of college. I think I was kind of going to University of Illinois more as an athlete, being 6'5" and 210. We didn't have all these fancy lifting programs back then, kind of more of just whatever sport you're in is kind of what you lifted and worked out in. So in the summer times, I grew up on a farm, so I didn't really have a whole lot of time to run and lift. And, we had it through the high school, maybe twice a week at the nights from, 5 to 7. But, nowadays these kids kind of specialize in one sport and kind of work out pretty much all year round. So, yeah, I was just lucky to be part of a good high school football program. My coach, Bob Clayton, is in the Indiana Hall of Fame for high school football, and it kind of got me to where I am today as far as athletic-wise and being an athlete at Illinois.
What was it like growing up in the little small town? Were there role models? Who did you actually mentor your career or moving forward in your journey? Were there role models that you looked up to?
Yeah. My high school coach Bob was always instrumental, just because he's been around it. He knew a lot of coaches in the college level, and so he kind of guided me along the way on what colleges to pick, what questions to answer, or what questions to ask and get answers for. Because, when you go to college, it's a lifelong decision. I met my wife at the University of Illinois. She's from Chicago. So, if I would have went to IU or Purdue, I probably wouldn't have met her, and things would have changed dramatically. So, I still have a lot of friends from Illinois that we still talk about the Illini victory yesterday and the good and the bad and all that good stuff. So, yeah, it's a lifelong, I guess, decision on where you go to college.
You're from Indiana, so why not go with, IU or Purdue?
Yeah, IU and Purdue didn't recruit me. Illinois was the only Big Ten school that gave me a scholarship, and that was due to Randy Rogers, who was the head coach of University of Evansville football at that time. And in 1988, they disbanded their football team, and John Makovic, coming in from, I think, Kansas City, grabbed him to be the recruiting coordinator. And he grabbed some kids from that southwestern part of the state. That's how I got to Illinois. That's how Kevin Hardy got to Illinois as well. And it was a good move for all of us.
Were there any struggles through your high school career transitioning to college? Were there struggles along that way that are different than what you see now?
Um, it's kind of hard to say what struggles kids are facing now, but we don't have social media, we don't have computers back then, and so it was just more of everything was kind of right in front of you with your parents, your high school coaches. You didn't really have any outside influences from other colleges, other players, and social media events like that. So I was just wanting to play college football, and Illinois was one of those schools that gave me a chance, and I think it turned out well for all of us.
When you mentioned that you played all these sports, what gravitated you more to football if you played all the other sports? Was it just something about football that you felt was more dominant than the other sports that you was involved in?
Yeah, being 6'5" and playing center on your high school team doesn't really get you to be 6'5" and a center in college. And so, I loved basketball. We had a good team. And of course, being in Indiana, everybody loved basketball. But,
right.
I knew that I wasn't going to be a 6'5" center in college. So that was kind of out. And, I loved baseball too. I was a pitcher and center fielder. But, that was always the last, I guess, season of the year as far as sports wise. So it was just more of, hanging out with your buddies and playing a little spring baseball and a little summer baseball. But football is kind of what I grew up as and what I love the most.
Tell me about the draft. You come out of Illinois. Was Indiana the school? I'm not Indiana, but was the coach the primary team that was interested in you coming out of college, or were there other NFL teams?
There was other NFL teams. I went to the Combine in 1995, met with a lot of teams there. You do all your interviews. Had a great conversation with Green Bay Packers, and Andy Reid was their quarterback's coach back then. And he's probably 30, 40 pounds lighter back then too. But you always remember the coaches that you meet and have a good time with. And Tom Bada was the tight ends coach here for Indianapolis, and we sat down and had long conversations. But I had long conversations with the Raiders, the Redskins, Detroit, and a few more. So coming draft day back in April of '95, didn't really know what to expect, and we just we had a party, had some food, had some beverages, and waited for the draft to get going.
Were you a high pick in the draft going into the draft? Were you highly picked on the board?
I think I was rated the 4th or 5th tight end in that class, and somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd round, and the Colts picked me in the 40th pick overall.
Okay, Paul, you got some questions you want to ask?
Well, you were talking about your high school coach, and I still am friends with mine. And one of the things that my high school football coach used to always say is football's life in a microcosm. And I just always, now I've gone on and done some things legally and otherwise. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts on kind of how that whole, the football involves teamwork and hard work and also a little bit of serendipity and luck. And I don't know. Have you found that to be true in your life and your career?
Yeah, I mean, you can always kind of go back and second guess things. If I would have maybe gone to Indiana, would have things have been different? Maybe. But you kind of live in the moment when you're going through college, because when you're 18 or 19 years old, you really don't know what you don't know. What they always tell you as a head coach to the young guys, and so you just kind of live at the moment. There were some good days, there were some bad days. And in 1992, I had 2 knee surgeries that kind of missed the good portion of the football year that year. And after that, you just don't know what's going to happen with your body and in the NFL and so forth. So, right then in high school and in college, you just kind of live one day at a time and make your choices.
Ken, was there certain role models, not role models, were there certain characters in the NFL that you, when you got there, you was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm playing against this guy, and just certain guys in the NFL that you just really looked up to, and then you got the chance to play alongside them?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a lifelong dream for me to play in the NFL. And you go through college and you have your good days and bad days, and you kind of get going. And once you get drafted, you come to the Colts, and you're staying in practice, and you're standing kind of between Marshall Faulk and Jim Harbaugh. And I think Marshall was a rookie the year before, went to the Pro Bowl, and had a great career. And Harbaugh was a quarterback in Chicago, had great times there. And So, the guys you end up watching on TV the year before is all of a sudden your teammates now, and you go through practice and games with them, and it's kind of surreal.
You mentioned your knees and knee surgery. I just had reconstructive knee surgery, and well, how many weeks am I out? Is it 2 months now?
6 weeks, 8 weeks, yeah.
And it is crazy. You said you went through 2. What was your mindset like trying to keep your job in the NFL and getting back on the field, but more importantly, like you just said, making sure that there's life after football?
Yeah, I had 2 in college, and there's just arthroscopic knee surgery for loose cartilage particles floating around your knee. So, thank God after 5 years of college and 10 years in the pros, I never had a torn ACL or anything major like that. So I was pretty lucky in that regard. So, but somebody always in college and in the NFL is always behind you trying to take your job, and you try to get back as soon as possible. And hopefully the guys behind you didn't do too good of a job to steal your position or steal your reps, but then you just kind of do what you have to do to get back on the field and go from there.
You got something you want to say? Go.
No.
What have you noticed different throughout your career in the NFL with changing of the guards, the way the NFL has been run? What have you seen different happen since you've been in the league?
Well, they take better care of the players now than what they did, 20 some years ago. I mean, in 95, we were going to training camp in early July and having, 4 weeks of training camp and full pads each day, and kind of the old school now. I know this year's a little bit different than what, most years are for, but, they take better care of the players. They don't hit as much. It's probably 2.5 weeks instead of 3 or 4 weeks. But, it's just the players are not as beat up as what we did going into the season as they were years ago.
What are you going to say, Paul? Go ahead.
No, I was just curious. One of the things that's fascinating to me about the NFL is just the parity. I mean, all those athletes, everyone who plays there is just so good. What separates, the teams that are able to execute on Sunday and the teams that aren't?
That's a good question. I think the organization is a big part of it because, look at what the Colts have done. Look at what Kansas City has done, New England. Those teams, they have great organizations. Not that Cleveland or Cincinnati isn't. They're always trying to get there, but it's just you always got to get good players, good coaches in. And, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's luck. I mean, every year there's always going to be 3 or 4 games that determine your season. Last year, how many field goals did we miss to go 7-9? I think it was last year. So, players getting injured, players staying healthy. It's a long season, and so those teams that can figure out how to get through a season with your top talent are the ones that are going to keep going.
Well, and I don't know if it's true for you, but I remember in high school, and I played in college, but not Division I. It always comes down to a few plays in a given game as to where it's going to go, and you never know. Obviously, well, usually you don't, what those plays are going to be beforehand. And that's kind of how life is too, right? I mean, life is things happen, and sometimes they happen suddenly, and sometimes suddenly something's going on that needs attention. And those are the kind of the life moments that change direction. And I don't know if you've kind of see that mindset or whatever, but in terms of my own life, whether it's business, whether it's family, whether it's raising kids, just there's some times that just happen and you look back and go, wow, that was a pivotal moment and I didn't really see it coming. And that's an interesting thing about, I know you played football too, Andre,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of what football prepares you for, is to show up every time because you never know when it's really going to count.
How do you feel about that, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. You never know what each year is going to bring in the NFL. Had 7 great years down here in Indianapolis, and went down to Tampa for 3 years. And you never knew what was going to happen down in Tampa. There was kind of a big question mark with Gruden coming in. Dungy coming up here, and all of a sudden, that first year we win a Super Bowl, and so you just never know what's gonna happen year to year, and you make your best decisions based on your family and your wife and kids and so forth, and hopefully it's for the best, and hopefully everybody's on the same page at the end of the day.
You talked about your wife and kids and the impact of the decision that you made meeting your wife by the road traveling through Illinois. How is that? Tell me a little bit about that and how your family supports you and you guys support each other through these, from going from Indiana to Tampa to back to Indiana.
Yeah, we got married in 1996, so we were married 6 years before we had to make that decision on our job and where we wanted to live and work for 3 or 4 years. So, and we knew that going to Tampa was going to be a short-term stay. And at that time, my daughter was 3, and my son was just born in the June of 2002, going down to Tampa. So. And they would stay up here. Then I would go down and work down there for a couple of months and come back and forth. And they would come down in August for the rest of the season. So it was a fun time. Kids were young, 3 and 1. So, we had the typical house down in Tampa, had a lanai with a pool right behind the house. And, it was fun. It was a different atmosphere. Gruden was fun to play for. The people of Tampa were fun to play for. And you go down there and meet some great teammates and great friends. I'm still friends with, Mike Allstott, Brad Johnson, and those type of guys that, you never would have met before if you wouldn't have gone down there. So, sometimes you got to take a chance on some things and hope they all work out for the best. And at the end of the day, most of the time they do.
What are some of we're going to stick with the football part right here. What are some of the impactful moments that you remember that really shaped your life playing the game? Some disappointing moments and some high moments.
I think I go back to that 1992 season and having 2 knee surgeries within, a month apart. That can kind of really wear on an athlete just because you miss so much time. And when you come back from an injury, you have no idea what or how your body's going to react. And I'd never had a knee injury or knee surgery before, so you never really know what's going to react. And, your mental part of that incident, that surgery, is kind of the biggest portion of how do you recover. Yeah. My tight ends coach back then was Sherman Smith, who had played in the NFL as a running back with Seattle. And, he gave me great advice is, when the body heals, the mind's got to heal first. And so your mental aspect of the game has to be 100%, because once you clear your physical aspect of whatever ailed you, was my knee, then your mental, your mental security blanket is going to be there for you and relieve any doubt of you coming back at 100%.
Did you retire from the sport on your own terms or what?
I did. I played 10 years, and my last year in Tampa Bay, I started all 16 games and had a solid year. But at that point, it's just a matter of how much is enough, and how much more can your body take. I could have probably played in a couple more years and just kind of been a backup and so forth. Maybe get 10 or 15 plays a game, but. I didn't know if that was for me. I didn't know if I had the mental makeup to go through a training camp and a whole season, knowing that come Sunday, I didn't know if I was going to get into the game or not. And some people do, and they have great careers as a backup and so forth. But I just didn't want to go through a training camp and kind of force myself to play and get ready for a long season like in the NFL.
What do you think about the contract negotiations that athletes in the NFL are having now? Let's look at the Dak Prescott situation. Me personally, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Call it like it is. I felt he should have got paid, but I'm not in charge of the, personnel and player development and so forth. If I was there, definitely things would have been different. Players now are getting lots of money, and clearly you can see why. I mean, the guy pretty much got messed up. Give me your idea from a player standpoint, your reaction to contract negotiations, and if players should get paid, if they shouldn't. If you had to change something right now based on your years of playing the sport, what would you like to see implanted differently, but still allowing the league to move forward in a positive way?
Yeah, that's a tough question, Andre. Of course, players should get paid. Players are making probably 10 times more than what we did, 20 years ago. But at some point, you got to realize, it's a business. The first, 3 or 4 years after you get drafted, it's fun. It's still a game. But when that first contract comes up and you have to renew it, then it's the business side of things that can and could get ugly. So. Dak Prescott's a great quarterback. Is he worth $30, $40, $50 million a year? That's for the NFL to decide. That's for Dallas to decide and what he wants. But, like Tom Brady, he always took a little bit less to give more to his other players. And, how many rings did he get out of it? So, there's a certain point where you have to make your money on a yearly basis and be paid what you're worth. But, how much is enough? And, is Dak going to hold out for $30 million? Is he not going to sign a contract for 25 because he feels he's undervalued by $5 million? Each player has to decide that. And, the outside looking in think that, hey, this guy's greedy or whatever it is.
Right.
But, all the top athletes need to get paid because you're only one injury away from ruining your career. But, you have to decide what's enough for you and your family.
Do you find yourself mentoring a lot of young athletes that are coming into the course organization? Do they reach out to you for advice on, and if so, how does that make you feel that they look up to you for that?
Yeah, we, as a retired player, you really don't have much access to the current players with the Colts. Most of the time that if we do see them, it's at a alumni event that at the Colts Stadium, Lucas Oil Stadium, and we get to say briefly hi to them. But most of the time it's just more of the alumni getting together and figuring out what benefits you have, insurance wise, and that sort of thing. So we don't get a whole lot of chance to talk to some of these younger kids coming to the NFL.
Go ahead.
How'd you choose the current business that you're in now? How did you figure out what you were going to do after football?
Just kind of fell into it. When I retired in 2005 to move back here to Indy, I was playing about 90 rounds of golf a year. And unfortunately in Indiana, the winters make you stay indoors. And I think my wife I was driving my wife crazy enough she told me, you need to find a job and get the hell out of the house. So I had a buddy in the mortgage business and we kind of got into it. And a couple of years later, he wanted out, so I kind of took over and just kind of kept on going from there. And now I've been in it for about 10 years now with a great group of guys, and it's been fun.
Ken, what's the name of the mortgage company that you currently have? Jason, can we put that up on the board for the viewers?
Yeah, it's called Milestone Home Lending. We're based out of Carmel here in the metro area, and we got 7 or 8 guys that work with us. And I'm just a loan officer, so I don't have any responsibility to answer to anybody except for my boss. But it's a great time. It affords me time to be flexible with my schedule. If I have to help my wife, my wife bakes banana bread on a weekly basis, so I have to deliver to her or deliver to Joe's Butcher Shop downtown Carmel and so forth, and allows me to get out of the office and play a little golf with my son here and there. And so it's been fun. It's been a great challenge some days, as we all know, in the real estate business. The last 10 years, you had some ups and downs, like everybody else in the industry working full-time jobs. So, but I wouldn't change anything.
You're still closely connected with the Colts. You have a show that you do. Tell the viewers about the show and how they can listen to you on the Colts.
Yeah, so I've been doing the Colts pregame show for Wish TV for the last 13 years, which I can't believe it's been 13 years doing that. And so we go live every Sunday at 11 o'clock from 11 to 12. And Anthony Calhoun is the lead anchor on the sports show. And we have a couple other people at the stadium every Sunday, whether it's a home game or away game. And you can log on to Wish TV every Sunday at 11 o'clock.
Do you feel like when you're watching those guys that you could turn back the hands of time when you see it playing and go, man, I could have caught that?
Yeah, I wish I could. The mind's a crazy thing where I think your mind says yes, but your body says no sometimes. But some of those guys are getting some major hits. I mean, God, these guys are bigger, stronger, faster than some guys I've played with. But, getting that check on Monday would feel awful good some days, but I'm perfectly happy sitting on the couch on Sunday afternoons and watching.
How closely connected to the high school that you and Paul rivaled against? So do you still go back there every once in a while, or you're like a legend there now?
Yeah, I guess I'm pretty well known there, but I haven't been back in a while. I haven't seen my parents since last Christmas, and hopefully I can get to see them this year. But I still talk to my high school coach all the time, and we're still trying to, be positive for the football team. They didn't have a great year this year, but I think they lost to Shatar last year in the state championship game, which they had a great senior class. But we don't have a lot of depth on the football team. I think we probably get maybe 15 to 20 kids per class. So it's a smaller school. It's 3A, but some days we just can't compete with these big Catholic schools here in Indy.
What were you going to say, Paul? He was going to say something.
Nothing. I remember going down there. I actually lived in Newburgh when I was a little kid, and then before 69 was built, I would go down to the semi-state games. You guys seemed to host them more often than we did for a while. And just the stadium was nice, and the pregame "Welcome to the Jungle" music always seemed to blare well. And it was just high school football in Indiana has really kind of come into its own. But back then, in the early 2000s, it was still kind of finding its way. And I don't know, remember a few games down that way. So
I think he's supposed to be showing you something, Ken. So, Paul, if you can, we got the picture now. So it's either you show it to us or we put it up on the.
So we got to set this up a little bit. I graduated in '88, so Andre was asking me if I still had my old high school jersey, and I found it, and it actually fit. But back then, it fit with pads. Now I don't think I could put pads on. Our high schools didn't really have a rivalry until well after Ken and I graduated, and they seemed to play each other almost every year. So,
well, that's because you was a legend at the high school, and Ken was a legend, and they decided to do it after the fact. Ken, before we wrap up. I usually ask this question of pretty much all the people guests I have on the show. Clearly, we've been going through a lot of stuff throughout the world with the pandemics and the human identification. Look at him. We're trying to show you something, Ken. Look at that. Boom.
Whatever.
It's that 3-point stance.
I know I pulled something probably doing that, but
yeah, you pulled something all right trying to stand up.
Oh, yeah. Funny.
You can take that off now, Jason. It's okay.
That's our funny moment. But with everything that's going on today, we'd like to leave the viewers with always a beast power frame of mind moving forward. Please share with the viewers your thoughts on that.
On the COVID-19?
That and just moving forward in a positive way. We need some uplifting.
Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs in no matter what career you have, family matters or family issues, and each day you just got to go out there and get better, whether it's at work or with your family or your friends or with your faith. And you just got to go out and keep plugging away because people rely on you, and you just got to go figure out how to make it through to the next day.
Paul?
No, I think that's right. I think it's putting one foot in front of the other and just kind of keep moving forward.
With that said, Ken, once again, thank you for taking time out of the coach did they get a day off today?
They got a day off.
Okay, well, that would explain why you're here, because I know you're always busy. I'd like to say thanks, Ken, for coming onto the show. Please come back and share some more stuff with us again. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Andre the Beast Show.